Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Breathing Podcast. We've got a good one for you today. We're going to be teaching the Ujjayi Breath, the Sitali Pranayama, the 4-7-8 breath. Of course, we'll do alternate nostril breathing, and we're also going to talk a little bit about some sports science, some meditation. Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carrol and their team. These guys do group meditation, how it helps them. And we're going to talk about a couple other things on how breathing can affect your performance. So whether you're in sports or music or public speaking, or you're just trying to perform and enhance optimization of your performance, using some of the breathing techniques can help with it. So let's get going. Enjoy the podcast.
You gotta exhale to inhale. Make your breath work like a wind girl.
Hey guys, welcome to the Breathing Podcast, episode number 3. Excited to be back here, drop some knowledge on you, some breathing techniques. In today's episode, I want to get right into a little bit of sports science. So some of the breathing and some of the preparation that we can use before we're ready to go to embark on a performance. So whether or not it's a sports performance, it could be a music performance, or a public speaking performance, but mostly for sports. If you're breathing at the time where you're experiencing the anxiety, sure, that's where you're pulling a lot of these techniques. But if that's the time where first time you're breathing, then a lot of times, you're going to have a rough uphill road in trying to conquer any type of anxiety or in the moment type of stuff. So most athletes know that preparation happens, you're playing the game the next day. The preparation happens the night before. So just like with mental work and just like with taking care of your body, the breath work prior to performance. So charging your body with oxygen, the right amount of oxygen, releasing the proper amount of CO2. So that way, when you're going into the performance, you're already loose. You're not bogged down by, acidosis, high pH levels, inflammation, lactic acid that's going to kind of, come sooner because you're not using the breath techniques as opposed to where you can delay that onset of lactic acid. So one of the great techniques is just really doing 30 deep breaths the night before. And if you have some go-to techniques, then do that. But charging your body with that oxygen, really doing some deep releasing exhales. So, the bamboo exhale where we're inhaling normally, then putting the teeth together and lips and milking out the breath with an extended exhale. You see that exhale, it really makes room to take a nice deep inhale. So one of the things with taking that deep inhale gives you mental clarity. It allows you to start calming the physical body, start invigorating the physical body with oxygen. And again, like I was talking about before, getting rid of some of that acidosis, that inflammation. So one of the stories I talk about a lot is John Jones. John Jones, UFC champion, and in one of his recent fights, he didn't finish somebody that he was supposed to finish his opponent in the first round, and it took him to the second round, and he admitted, I warmed my body up physically, but I didn't do the breathing exercises and the breathing techniques that I normally do pre-performance. And what happened was he got gassed out in the first round. He kind of dumped all his energy, as opposed to if he would have done the breath work, he maybe would have been able to delay that onset of lactic acid or not dump everything right away. So that's like guys like even Cowboy Cerrone's fighting tonight with McGregor. He's supposed to be a slow starter. It would be important for him not only to warm up the physical body, but also internally. I know he does, good mental repetitions, and he's got a great mental game, but I'm not really sure what type of breathwork practice he has or anything. So these are little micro micro movements, nuances, little tricks that you can add, you can add to your arsenal to then see if you can take your game up to the next level. A lot of athletes, these guys are at their top of their game. They're at the top peak performance. So, adding a mental edge or a physical edge. And again, your breathing, it's where you can get your composure. So if you're an athlete like Brandon Brooks from the Philadelphia Eagles, who recently had to sit out a game because he was experiencing extreme anxiety, for somebody like him, it would have been good to do a lot of expulsion breaths, really get rid of that anxiety, and to be working on that, consistently. So you're releasing that internal pressure on a consistent basis by doing daily breath work in addition to what all your practices are. A lot of the athletes think, hey, my breathing's good because I'm breathing so much. But that doesn't mean you're breathing and actually releasing that tension in the body or that internal pressure. So using the techniques prior to performance, and then when you need them during the performance to keep that invigoration, that's where you would still employ them. So again, Brandon Brooks with the anxiety, just releasing that internal pressure, he could be doing laughing with the ha, 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 ha. He could be doing alternate nostril breathing every day to balance the hemispheres of the brain and also balance that amount of yin and yang. So likely his adrenals are stuck on overload and, he's dealing with a stressful situation. So your body's kind of getting hijacked by the emotional excitement. And again, I'm always saying it, emotional excitement affects your breathing rate, making it irregular. So if you can then learn the conscious breathing techniques, you can check emotional excitement when it happens in the moment. So anyway, in this podcast, we're going to drop some breathing techniques I didn't get to last time. The first one for you at home who's listening, you want to try and practice along, it's going to be the Ujjayi Breath. So this is the breath of the warrior, the ocean sounding breath. And for me, it's been a breath that I've adapted when I've gone deep in yoga. So, if you see people doing Ashtanga yoga, you'll hear the Ujjayi breath. So that ocean sounding breath. So it's a swirling that kind of happens. I'm actually breathing through the nasal passage the whole time. And then there's a swirling that's happened with the breath that's happening down in the throat, specifically the epiglottis. So it's almost like, that sound that I'm making to teach this, the sound that I'm making is more, but it's almost like the sound that you make when you're snoring. So if you were doing a fake snore and almost, we want to kind of almost do that, but not where it's choppy, where you're not doing that piece. You're just doing it to the point where and what you're really doing is closing the epiglottis. So you're narrowing that passageway, allowing you to take a gradual, deep inhale in. You're extending the duration of your inhale, and of course you can use the pause. And then on the exhale, you're really able to extend the duration. So let me demonstrate a couple of them for you. The Ujjayi breath, the ocean sounding breath. First an inhale. Pause. Exhale. So this is a powerful, invigorating breath. It's also one of those good breaths if you're ever experiencing any type of anxiety. So I used to have acid reflux. I had some stomach problems. And then one of the symptoms was you felt it kind of refluxing right here at your diaphragm, and then it would feel like you're having a heart attack, so you'd be freaking out. And this is one of the breathing techniques that like you knew it wasn't happening, but just to calm yourself, I would just be the whole time. Now, this is also one of those breathing techniques that I do when I'm doing more of a yoga practice or a yin practice. If I'm doing yang stuff, meaning striking, that kind of stuff, or moving fast or fast twitch, you're probably not going to be really doing this breath because it's more of a rhythm breath. So you're taking deep inhales, releasing exhales. It's an audible breath. So you're reminding yourself, hey, I'm breathing with the audible if I'm not making that sound. So if you're teaching it, it's easy to see whether or not somebody's doing it. And if you're by yourself doing it, it's an easy way to kind of remind yourself, hey, keep on breathing, keep on doing that Ujjayi breath. So, but again, it's kind of a difficult breath to master. But if you can get it, it's one of those breaths, I think it'll be your go-to breathing technique, or it could be one of your go-to breathing techniques. So again, another way to maybe learn this is almost like you're fogging up the mirror. So you're taking an inhale, and it's almost like you're saying ha, or fogging up the mirror, but then you continue on and close your mouth and keep that swirl going. So I'll try it a couple times here. Ha. Or so that's kind of a little bit, maybe you can get it by practicing that. But again, for when you get it, it's just normal. So it's good for doing a slow, Zen practice or meditation. I use this breathing technique for meditation all the time because all I really need to do is shut my eyes, go third eye. And this breathing technique, if I'm sitting in decent posture and alignment, this breathing technique just kind of disciplines the whole body and allows you to quickly let go. So then maybe you can allow some of that Kundalini energy or that chi to rise. Anyway, so let's keep on going here. That's the Ujjayi breath, the ocean sounding breath. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll try and go a little deeper on that dive with that breathing technique. The second technique that I want to go over is the 4-7-8 breath. So a lot of people, if you're doing a daily breath, it's a pretty good one because you can really concentrate on the pause and the exhale. So the 4-7-8 breath is inhaling for 4, pausing for 7, and then exhaling for 8. So I can do this with the Ujjayi breath. So I'll demonstrate. Inhaling for 4. Pausing. So that's a couple 4-7-8 breaths. The first one I kind of did it on the second. So I was counting in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it's all relative. Your 4 could be 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So do it at a pace where you're not struggling. You never want to struggle with this. You don't want to over breathe. You don't want to over pause. And you don't want to over exhale at the end. And struggle with this. So again, use this breath for relaxation. Maybe it's the end of the day and you're trying to calm down, or it could be on a lunch break where you're saying, okay, I want to get rid of some of this CO2. I want to pause the breath and still the fluctuations of the mind, because that's really what's happening. Yogis know this. When you pause the breath, you still the fluctuations of the mind, those 60,000 thoughts. So the 60,000 thoughts, the 23,000 breaths we take, we pause that breath. So it's at the end of the day, it's great to pause that from the chattering mind, the monkey mind. Pause it, slow it down. It's a great preparation for meditation. It's great preparation for when we have too much clutter. So, I always say before sitting down and doing something creative, I love doing the alternate nostril breathing to help balance the hemispheres of the brain But that's the same with the 478. If you're going to sit down and do something creative, and unless you need to be all amped up and wired up, it's a pretty good breath to, again, get rid of all that CO2 because you're really concentrating on that 8-beat exhale. So by getting rid of the CO2, you're automatically balancing the pH levels of the blood. And then, again, everything's starting to kind of, from the inside out, soften up, getting rid of the inflammation. Hopefully that inflammation doesn't go to your brain, right? But anyway, so let's keep going here. One of the other breathing techniques, I talk about it all the time, is alternate nostril breathing. So I think that's one of those ones that you can do daily. Again, it's index finger, middle finger on the third eye. You close your right nostril with your thumb. You close your left one with your ring finger. And you can start out. Just do 2 rounds here. So if you at home, just to kind of reacquaint and refile that muscle memory. So closing the left, inhaling through the right. Closing right, exhaling left. Inhaling left. Closing left, exhaling right. Inhaling right. Closing right, exhaling left. And you would just continue doing that. Again, this is one of those breathing techniques to clear the head. So if you guys are out there vaping too much, smoking too much, cigarettes, weed, doing things, whatever you're doing to put the fog in your head, even me, I was doing too many headstands, too many inversions. If you're a cerebral person, you're really living in the mind all the time and you just can't stop that mind. This is, again, another great technique just to kind of get that energy out of the head and start to displace it so it can move out. So anyway, tapping is another one for that. And check out the last podcast. I kind of went over that. The last breathing technique here that I want to pull is Sitali Pranayama. So that's the cool down breath. And it's a great breathing technique right now because here in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, we have snow today. So we've been inside. A lot of people are cranking the heat. And what happens, Sitali Pranayama is the cool down breath. Now, you do it by either putting your lips together and breathing in the cool air, or your tongue and curling the tongue and then breathing in. And what's happening, you're feeling the cool air hit the tongue, pick up moisture, go down the throat, and start to activate the parasympathetic nervous system that's responsible for us calming down, a little serenity, cooling the body a little bit. So this breathing technique, to do it, again, either pursed lips or curled tongue on the inhale. Then you're tucking your chin, and on the exhale, you're just doing a hum. So you want to feel that vibration. Everything's together. You're just... So it's... This is a great breathing technique. People use it for high flashes, for menopause. It's one of those ones, they call it the cool down breath, because if you're overheated or if you're really like fire, a lot of times we're overheated, we're fiery inside. So we got that, and we need to calm that down. So this is almost like the kettle on the stove, busting out the heat, starting to release that. So this is doing a little bit of the same way. What this is also doing, when you're picking up the moisture coming down the throat, so when you're breathing in, the cool air is coming down, picking up the moisture, it's acting as kind of like insulation. So you got to think the mucus, when we go in from cold to hot or hot to cold and we change temperatures, our body, instantly is building mucus up to protect ourselves, to insulate inside. So what this is doing to also break that up, get rid of some of that. That mucus is actually going to manifest, if you don't move it, it's stagnant chi, stagnant energy. It's it's going to manifest into something. If you keep it there, it's going to be stale air. So you need to kind of get it out. There's different ways to get it out, to break it up. So that's a kind of a moist way to do it. And try Sitali Pranayama. They also call it Sitakar. That's another name you might hear it on. But I use that breath a decent amount, more during the summer and more right as the seasons are changing than I do as a daily breath. So anyway, that's a couple breathing techniques. The last thing I want to get to here is really some of the mental side of sports and the sports piece. And, one of the persons I really love as a coach, and even though the Seattle Seahawks just beat our Philadelphia Eagles out here, I love what Pete Carrol stands for. He's a leader of men. So I think to be a great head coach, that's really what you need to be, a leader of men. These guys need that type of thing. And one of the things he leads with is by example. So Seattle's an interesting team because they're one of the ones that buy into meditation as a team. So I'm going to read this passage real quick just so you guys can get a sense of where it is. Pete Carrol, he's one of the world's best football teams with Seattle. He's a great coach, and he's encouraged the athletes to meditate. So he hired a sports psychologist to teach the members mindfulness exercises, and one of the objectives was exposing them to meditation and the proven ability to increase their happiness and decrease their stress. In addition, the research has shown that the benefits of being in the zone, which explains a mental state that top athletes reach, a peak experience. It's another way to kind of describe that state. So, whether it's in the zone or a meditative state, that's kind of what they're talking about there. And they talk about how, how being in the zone's like an NBA star scoring a series of threes, or an Olympic sprinter breaking a world record. And, scientists are showing that whether you're an NFL quarterback, the ability to reach a state of relaxation has amazing benefits. And a calm mind encourages happiness and decreases stress. And it increases our ability to focus and decrease the mental chatter. It's kind of what I was talking about before. So they attribute a lot of their winning attitude and leadership and intense training to meditation. One of their offensive tackles, Russell Okong, said meditation is as important as lifting weights and being out here on the practice field. It's about quieting your mind. It's about quieting your mind and getting into certain states where everything else outside of you doesn't matter in that moment. There's so many things telling you that you can't do something, but you take these thoughts captive, take power over them, and then change them. And that's a lot of that self-talk that we talk about. So if you're doing a gratitude meditation, beforehand, you're picking what you're really grateful for, and you're really trying to pinpoint that maybe into a feeling or something that's a flash, a feeling, a sound, a smell. And then when you're doing the gratitude, meditation, every inhale, you're just attaching that positive gratitude. And every exhale, whatever's holding you back from that, you're basically attaching that and releasing it. So kind of the same thing, that self-talk. I talked about it on one of our podcasts last year or a couple years ago with Jack London, who's a world champion bodybuilder and powerlifter. And he talked about the mental side of it and the mental reps he would do where he'd actually visualize himself on the podium, not only getting first place, but, getting, he would see himself there getting first place. He would see himself completing the lifts required, completing the poses, going through his routine. So he would do that on a daily. So that way, by the time that moment actually came, the mental side of that's worked out. So if he starts getting hijacked by anything else, a lot of times you then can have your muscle memory take over because, again, you've already been there. You've already practiced this. And that's what I was talking about before, that pre-game stuff. If by the time you're only pulling these techniques is when you're getting hijacked or you're in stress mode, keeping up with it is the trick. Staying on top of that internal pressure so that way not having it build up so much so that way you can't come back from it without some serious time and effort put in. So that way these athletes that are doing meditation on a daily, they're gonna go with it a little bit, maybe easier. Maybe for a coach, they might be more coachable. For them, they might be in their ego a little bit less. They may be able to kind of, coach themselves before that moment happens and actually ground themselves in. So if they're anticipating a moment, a big moment, playoffs or something like that, you can visualize that moment and, kind of prepare for that ahead of time. So I think all this stuff is amazing and inspiring. So, and again, you're an athlete, but if you're a musician or an engineer or just somebody who's just passionate about their career or a public speaker or somebody who's got a message or a brand, that's it, man. Just ground into it, do some of these techniques, release the internal pressure inside you, because that's the thing that kind of trips us up. I can speak for myself. The thing that trips me up the most is my energy. And you're saying, what? Dude, don't you teach energy and, don't you do healing and all this other stuff? Well, I use some of that stuff, but the thing that trips me up most is my physical energy. So when I neglect myself and I don't stay on top of releasing my own internal pressure, then I could be showing up physically in the moment and saying, hey, I'm all good, and trying to act my way out of that. But people are intuitive, and there's something sometimes about it that they can pick up, and it's the aura. It's the energy field around us. Remember, a positive aura, a negative aura projects 3 times as far as a positive aura. Think about that. So that negative person is gonna, when he walks in the room, they're gonna have a projection. If it's 50 feet for the person who's a positive person, it's 150 feet for the person who's negative. So we're gonna notice them much more. And a lot of times we get tricked by that. It's not necessarily that we're attracted to their positivity, but we're attracted there and we just don't know. So, and then eventually a lot of times we figure it out as we get a little bit up close and personal or have some interaction. So again, I can only talk from my own experience. Using the breath work and the meditation has been life-changing for me. It's allowed me to kind of dial in what sometimes used to be a real nightmare for people. And I'm sure, my energy, I could just kind of take over wherever I needed to and hijack a room. And that's not good, especially when that room doesn't need to be hijacked. So use any of these techniques within. Drop any questions in the comments below. If you guys want to learn anything in particular, or if you're struggling with anything that you think you are at your wit's end, you need some help, drop it in the comments below. Do my best to kind of address it. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to breathe with me. Breathe well. Stay flexible, guys. If you're experiencing breathing problems, or if you want to enhance your breathing for performance, perhaps consider booking a breathwork session either online or in person, where you'll learn some simple techniques to help you either overcome what you're experiencing or reset, recalibrate, and refresh what's already there. Online sessions are available via Skype or Google Hangout. Book your session today at zenhailing.com. The Zen Hailing online breathing and meditation program takes the secrets of the sages, the secrets that are contained deep within yoga teacher training and martial art training, and a lot of people don't have the time to access this knowledge. I've taken the time, I've integrated this in my own personal path of healing. Learn how to teach simple yet powerful fundamentals of breathing and meditation that can affect people that you're in front of for every day of their lives. Think about it. How great would it be to be able to affect the way somebody breathes or controls their negative thoughts? Simple breathing techniques that can dispel that internal pressure, release that internal pressure that we have that causes anxiety and stress, and also invigorate you. So instead of robbing your energy from improper breathing, learning how to maximize this fundamental that we all need to learn. Hi, I'm Tim Kelly, creator of Zen Hailing. Well, Zen Hailing combines the Zen essence, yogic path, and martial spirit And it does that through everything breath, meditation, movement, and energy. I'm very excited to bring you the Zen Healing online breathing and meditation training. And these are things that can affect your life outside of the dojo and off the yoga mat. If you're a yoga teacher and you're still not teaching breathing or meditation, well, this is your opportunity to start. The Breathing and Meditation Teacher Training Program can be done online at your own pace and in your own space. By going through this training program, you're going to have an opportunity to license this knowledge so you can integrate it within your own teachings or your own workplace and use this to affect others. I'm excited to add this program into your bag of tricks, and I'm also excited to build a team of instructors that's out there spreading the word of proper breathing and meditation. Breathe well. Thank you for joining me on this journey.